Yo, it's your boy Uncle Cooley. Welcome back to the Toast Stop Podcast, man. If you don't know what that means to open a sincere transformation upon people. This is episode 35. I have a guest, man. I have a guest that he goes by Alex, and I'm excited to introduce him, man. So what's going on, Alex? How you feeling?
What's up, my man? Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
I
bro.
appreciate it.
So to give you an overview on how we met, I met Alex in the gym. He was working, and I witnessed you reading a book.
Uh,
I'm not sure what the book was called, but I just asked you a question about the book, and you told me you were an avid reader, that you like to read and to really invest in yourself mentally and emotionally and spiritually.
right, right,
So that's the overview. I'm excited that you're on the show to drop gems and just we can learn from each other, bro.
right.
So how are you feeling today? Let the people know.
I'm doing good. I'm doing all right.
Okay.
I was telling Carlos before. I was telling you before. I kind of feel like I got a little bit of imposter syndrome going on right now, just because you know, I feel like I don't have the credentials to really give advice to people or really just give life advice to anyone. But at the same time, I do feel like I've grown in ways that are outside of money, outside of a career. Um, so we'll see. I mean, we'll see what the questions are bringing to the table, but
I like
hopefully I can add something insightful.
Right. And
Insightful.
I love the transparency, bro.
Yeah,
Tell the people, like, what have you been learning this past
this
year?
past
Like
year.
some of the qualities that you felt like you um got invested in.
Yeah. I think this past year I've seen the most change in regards to just the way I take care of my finances or just the way I see money in general. Um, I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned this year is that it's not about how much you make, it's really about how much you keep at the end of the day. And I know that seems pretty pretty simple, but it is very practical. Um, and going along with that thought, I trying to just grow in the way where I'm trying to desire less. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what I buy. It doesn't matter if I get, a nicer car, if I get nicer clothes. At the end of the day, there's always going to be something else I desire afterwards once I get it. So it's very unfulfilling at the end of the day, for me at least. You know, um, I do, everybody says that money doesn't buy happiness. I do think that it makes it easier, like you were
For
saying
sure, for
before.
sure.
It opens up opportunities for sure. Um, and just in general, I feel like life is harder when you're running a little thin. But 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 yeah, it's definitely not everything, it's just aspect, a small aspect of life. It can have influence on other aspects of life, but um I feel like, you know, people in their early 20s, they put so much focus on establishing their career and um, this is when they're really in the real world on them by themselves and standing on their own 2 feet. Um, but I think I'm slowly letting go of the control money has had over me.
Mm.
Yeah.
Why do you think like the world really desires so much? And it's like sometimes like it's not even the money. It's like, before the show we were talking about like why are people so materialistic?
Right.
And then they reach their older age, whereas like they value the intangibles such as family, such as
Right.
great health.
Right.
But back when they were in their early 20s or 30s, they desire to kind of like have more than the people around them, or
Yeah.
like to be validated with the material things.
Right. Um, I really think it's just based on your upbringing, the people that brought you up, or whatever situation you were in financially when you were younger. Um, I know people who, they have generational wealth within their family, but they spend so little. They're almost cheap in a way, but they get those qualities because their parents are like that. And I'm not saying I'm not going to tell anybody what to do with their money. At the end of the day, that's their business.
Mm.
I'm just focused on how I can control mine and my own view on it. Um, and me personally, um, I grew up believing if I have it, like if I have the money, why not spend it, right? Really, what's the big deal about saving? As long as I'm not in debt, if I have it in my account, then it's mine at the end of the day. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's just I started to realize that there's this hole in me that I can't fill with materialistic or purchases, right? Um, and so this goes into what we were talking about earlier before the podcast started. I think this year or past couple years, I'd say, um, I really just devoted myself to God, and I think up until now, I've been just trying to fill a God-shaped hole with other things, if that makes any sense. But yeah.
So what does that look like? Like, so you go from, looking in your bank account, is there, it's mine, I can spend it how I like it, whether that's, traveling, whether that's, having a great experiences, whether, going to concerts, having a nightlife. But now you shift your focus to God.
Mhm.
And I know that it's a strong impact in your life. Elaborate on what that everyday life looks like for you.
Yeah. So I think focusing my life around the gospel.
Yeah.
Um it's really just understanding that my efforts and my works will never make me righteous. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, I am very broken. We are all very broken. As people, there's things that everybody hides something in their closet, right? We got skeletons in our closet. Um and it might sound weird, but I think I started to realize that I am way worse than I actually think I am. Um, and really just focusing on, you know, there's this undeserved love that I get or undeserved sacrifice that I've received. Um, and that's the only thing that makes me righteous. There's nothing that I can do. There's no, um, me going out and giving money to the homeless people, that doesn't make me any less broken than I am right now. It's really just acknowledging every day that it sounds a little pessimistic, but that I am a rotten person. And because of God, I'm saved. He has made me righteous and I don't deserve it. Um, so you know, what can I go on from there, right? How can I apply that to my daily actions? I think it's just um, a focus on trying to be holy, trying to be like God. And I don't want to talk too much about
Yeah.
Christianity.
No, no, no. If
Yeah,
that's something that you're passionate about,
yeah,
and like I said, this is still to achievements. We open like openness and transparency.
right,
And I want to enlighten the viewers and listeners about who you are.
yeah,
Um, because that's important to you.
right,
So I think, you may inspire other listeners that like,
yeah,
hey, like that may feel like they should be perfect
right,
and nobody's perfect.
right,
You
right,
know what I mean? Like
right,
you said, like everybody has their skeletons. Everybody has their own flaws
right,
in their own image because everybody is their own individual.
right,
Um and being a strong believer and having faith in God made you really may enlighten your own perspective on how you want to live your life.
right.
And I think that's very important for the listeners and viewers to get to know who you are. Um, because you speak so transparent. I feel like like right now, we speaking from the heart. You feel what I'm saying? And
Right.
like even though this is the pod, just as you and I having a conversation as well, just with a lot more clarity. And I really want to appreciate you for elaborating on that. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah. So the thing about religion, faith, or anything like that, it's I know it varies from person to person,
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think there's common ground that we can all find, regardless of what you believe in. Um, Especially if you are religious, um, I think there's things or ideas that um, people that are Muslim that share with Christians.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I grew up in the church. I'm Korean American, so most Korean Americans they grow up in the church. In Asia, it used to be almost all Buddhists, but then Christianity kind of had a big influence on certain countries, um, especially Korea, South Korea, because South Korea has a lot of influence on from the U.S. because they were pretty much formed by the U.S. Um, but pretty much, if you talk to any Korean American, any Korean person that was born in America, almost 95%, there's a 95% chance that they grew up in the church. They grew up in the church. The parents brought them to church every Sunday. Um, and that was like me. I know I've been going to church. I was baptized. I don't remember my baptism. I was baptized when I was a baby. Um, so it became a thing where it was just expected of me to. I didn't think twice of it. You know, I didn't really feel any growth within myself, any sanctification within myself until a couple years ago. Um, but for almost 21, 22 years, it was almost just something I did every Sunday as a chore almost. Um, but even there's been years where like I consider more of myself as like agnostic, especially during like my college years, just because, you know, got away from the family and it really became my decision whether or not I want to pursue a Christian life. And then during that stage of my life, I really started to question like why exactly am I doing the things that I do? Um, so around that time, it was just a lot of questioning, a lot of doubts, which will always happen. I still have them to this day. Um, but I kind of just stepped away from the church. But even during those days, I remember thinking to myself that like regardless of how I feel, I think I would always want to raise my kids Christian. Um, just because I feel like there's a moral structure that religions have that are pretty much good outlines on how to live life. I think that's really what religion is. So yeah, there's been times where I didn't feel like I was a Christian myself, but I understand why people were Christians. Um, Came back to the church a couple of years ago, and um, you know, there's there's many there has been many influences on me. I mean, I've had my own personal connection to God, but just the community around me has changed me a lot too. Um, like we were talking about, I'm in a relationship right now, um, and she has um, impacted me in ways where I just view life a lot differently. There's a lot of clarity in my life in regards to certain aspects. I don't know if I'm going off on a tangent or
No, no, no,
my
no,
fault.
bro. No, you good. No, I'm listening to you. I think like you're being very transparent, and like I said, I want to appreciate
Yeah, yeah,
that because you're giving a lot of background
yeah.
on why and how life shaped your perspective and which you strongly have faith in.
Right.
And I want to ask you like since like what is the biggest habit as of today that impacted your life so far? Like whether that's reading the Bible every day, whether that's waking up
Mhm.
early, being in the gym. What are something that is very positive, a positive habit that like strongly impacted your life?
Positive habit.
Yeah, and definitely ponder about it
Yeah.
because that's like you gotta really reflect on
Right.
the day to day life you have.
Right. Um, I think yeah, I mean I guess spending time with God or
Okay.
um even just taking some time just to reflect on your day, whether it not be on your phone. I do this like before I go to bed, right? I'll just stare at my ceiling and just think about like where I'm at in life and
Mm.
or how my day went or something.
Like, can you give us an example?
Yeah, for sure. I think I tend to overthink. I think that's just my personality. If you can tell, like I'm a little jittery just because like I'm more so of an anxious person. So I tend to think about everything. Sometimes that's not a good thing. My thoughts keep me up at night sometimes, right? Um, but you know, I think about what my long-term goals are, right? Every day. You know, if I'm not doing a task, I'm always looking to the future. That might be a good thing. That might be a bad thing. You know, I feel like I'm always living in the future. But I also think it's important to reflect on what you've done today and, you know, how your actions today influenced your, or whether or not it's progressed you to reaching your goal.
Right.
So I think that time of reflection is very important. Like I said, I make sure that whether it's before I eat or before I sleep, I spend some time um, like spending time with God, whether it be through prayer or reading the Bible. I think specifically prayer, it's important just because it reminds you just to stay humble. I mean, the one of the big reasons to pray, if not the biggest reason, is to repent. Um, Pretty much acknowledge that, you know, you've betrayed um not only yourself, but you've also betrayed God. You betrayed God in a
Right.
lot of ways today, every single day. Um, so I think it's a reflection um and acknowledgement um that you're broken and you can't put any dependence on yourself.
Right.
You really need to depend on God and he will pretty much cover your sins.
That's good, bro. I
Yeah.
think like a lot of people in life have so many habits and they
Yeah.
don't really reflect on what's the biggest habit that really impacted their life.
Yeah.
It could be like negative habits.
Yeah.
Like, the biggest negative habit that I try to stray away from is waking up late,
Okay.
because I do believe like having more time in the day really can create an opportunity for yourself. And it has a certain type of discipline. Like I want to wake up like 5:30 a.m. in the morning. But it's so hard because I feel like I even though I wake up later in the day, I still achieve everything I want
Mhm.
to, but it may not be as efficient that it needs to be. Like for an example, like waking up early in the morning and going to the gym instead of going, after work,
Mhm.
because you had a long day already, so the workout may be not as impactful as it could have been.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Or eating healthy or reading the Bible early in the morning.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? I felt like starting your day off with so much more faith and so much more inspiration, it may impact you to live in the moment a lot more,
Mhm.
or may just, live have a humble perspective throughout the day, and
Mhm.
not allow like negativity or things that are can be on the smaller end to really impact your perspective on or your behavior.
Mhm.
Um, so I encourage people to continue to reflect,
Mhm.
and even read, bro.
Yeah,
I
right.
think reading is very. Like, I feel like
Yeah.
that's how we connected. Like
Yeah.
I think the first question I asked you in the gym was like, did you ever read the psychology of money?
Yeah, 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 for sure. Um, like I was saying before, like I think I've been putting more emphasis on um just trying to better understand money as a whole this year. So I think I don't know if I was reading that book when we met, but that was one of the books that you know, I definitely need to reread it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
something that I feel like a lot of people should study. It's not a one time read.
Nah, for sure.
Like you have
Yeah.
to study that book.
Right.
Because I do feel like if you apply it, you will see
Yeah.
certain things that you may value anymore. Like
Yeah.
one of the examples that they gave is like when people buy nice cars, you gotta realize that they're just like, $50,000 or
Mhm.
$30,000 less than what they are. I
Right.
mean, they have less money than what they already had.
Right.
And he said real wealth is unseen.
Right.
Like if you see it, it's like it's not real wealth. He said when
Right.
people own land and when people own, intangibles like stocks or, 401ks, he said like that's unseen.
Right.
Buying a Rolex, buying a big home that you really can't afford, and buying like the most luxury or fastest car, people see it. That's not real wealth. It makes you look rich. But he said people really value and people will really appreciate you for who you just really are.
Right.
And
Right.
that's something that we were talking about earlier the show, like straying away from money and really just valuing time with, faith, family. Like, bro, health is very important.
Mm.
And I feel like a lot of people overlook that,
Mm.
especially in their 20s, because they feel like there's nothing wrong with them. But I was talking to a older man. He was like, man, like take care of yourself. He said, man, when you retire, he said some of my friends are retired and they have health problems.
Mm.
So like their pensions and their retirement fund is all going to health,
Mm.
and they can't really enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, I mean, like, we are at an age where our bodies feel almost invincible, right?
Yeah,
Like if we get sick, we pretty much recover very quickly. Any injury we have, um, as long as it's not life threatening,
yeah,
we can
yeah.
pretty much get over,
Right.
majority or most people can. Um, so that's the thing. It's like, I feel like, you know, I think this past few years, like, um, there's many aspects of my life that I feel like I don't have control of. Um, but I always tell people like life is going good. I mean, I'm healthy, my parents are healthy, my family's healthy, my friends are healthy. Um, at the end of the day, that's the biggest blessing that we can have. Um,
Let's touch on that. You said like you feel like some of the things in your life you don't have control of.
right.
What are some things that are like that?
Yeah. I think it's just it's like I like to compare myself to a lot of other people, especially with the people around me.
Mm,
Um, so in many ways, I can feel discouraged on where I'm at, um, or like what position I'm in, um, and also not appreciate where I've come. So I think there's a lot of like self-destructive habits I have, whether it be just the way I think or just the way I live life, um, that just make it, I don't know, just make me feel like I don't have, I feel like how do I put this into words? I'm not happy with where the place I'm at in many
mm-hmm.
ways, like whether it be through relationships, career wise, or, um, but at least I know, like, my family's healthy. Like, at least I know, um, I could get up in the morning. I wake up in the morning and there's a new day ahead of me. Um, so I don't know. I think it's too much to ask on myself for everything to be perfect in my
Mm-hmm.
life. Um, but at the same time, it's very easy to get in the habit of thinking of what's wrong with my life rather than what's going good,
Do you feel like you get in your own way more than others?
More so like look, is that what you're
Like,
trying
do
to
you
say?
feel like you get in your own way in your
Oh,
mind
getting my own way.
than others?
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, I think I am a big overthinker. I tend to get always think about the worst possible or I put myself in, or I think about situations that maybe not even be logical, but I always think about what's the worst thing that could happen in this moment. Um, I don't really know why I think that way. Um, so, I think that can also just hurt the way I think about myself. Always thinking negatively about myself and always thinking that I can do more or I should be doing more. Um, I think there are potential good things about that.
Mm-hmm.
you know, I'm happy that I'm never content. Um, just because I feel like there's always something to strive for. Like I don't think I'll ever reach a level in my life where I can just relax and I'm happy with everything and it will stay that way. I think there's always going to be something I can work on, whether it be my relationships with other people or whether it be uh, like my bank account, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think I'm always just reflecting, and I guess you could say like I'm a perfectionist in that way, you
Mm.
know, that everything has to be perfect to the T. But the thing is, um, I don't think I could ever get there. You know, from my experience, I don't know many times in my life where I felt um, satisfied everywhere I am in life. Um, and that's a thing. I think that's, you know, I'm gonna bring it back to God now,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
you know, that's I think that's what keeps me in check, um,
Mm.
because I understand that um, my life will be always unfulfilling. You know, um, it's my joy in honoring God. That's what makes life
Mm.
worth living. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's always a battle between a dependence on myself and the dependence on God. That's what I struggle with every single day.
I know for me, because you sound like super ambitious as well. I'm very ambitious and I do strive for more each and every day. Like
Yeah.
whether that's health, financial goals, relationships is very important. But I read a book like 2 years ago and it was called like Joy or like the Pursuit of Happiness.
Mm,
And it said like people think because they limit their happiness, they'll achieve happiness eventually.
mhm,
For an example, like if you have acne on your skin, like people will like limit their happiness until they achieve acne.
mhm,
Like, oh, when I have once I have clear skin, I'll become a much happier person.
mhm.
And it may be true, but it's always something. Or
Right.
hey, once I achieve the car of my dreams, or the home of my dreams, or the girl or the man of my dreams, I'll become a happier person, not
Mhm.
knowing that they're limiting their happiness in the meanwhile.
Right.
And I had to develop, and I talk about it all the time, um, healthy unsatisfaction.
Okay. Yeah.
Like being very grateful and appreciative of what I have currently,
Mhm.
but understanding that it's so much more and let's do a lot more than what we ever can dream of.
Right. Right.
And what worked for me is writing in my journal every day for 6 weeks straight. Like even if I had a bad day, I created a happy journal.
Mhm,
So I had to forcefully create a note for myself every day, every night, something that I had a positive experience about. So I can have the most terrible day on earth, but it's something that went my way. Whether that's waking up in the morning, whether that's eating one of my favorite meals, like I can lose like $100, but I have to force myself to really create a happy ending for that night.
mhm,
You know what I'm saying? So that's some of the things that kind of worked for me.
mhm.
And it's so easy to compare yourselves to so many people, like especially like when you strive for so much more. But then again, it's just like you're always gonna strive for more. That's just in your character. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I feel as though like the people around you really want to see you win. And as long as you have that strong support system that will empower you and a power circle that will give you ideas to create opportunities for you, that's what life is really about.
Mhm,
And along with keeping God first,
mhm,
having a relationship with Him to give you that humbleness and to give you that type of perspective like life is so much more than me, it's bigger than us.
mhm.
Like when you look at the entire universe, like we're literally just a dot. Like you
Right.
zoom out the country, then you zoom out on Earth, and then you zoom out the Milky Way, and we're just like we're not even like we're just people.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the future holds so much, bro. And the present does as well.
Right.
That's all about clearing your mind, meditating, um, trying to surround yourself with positive people.
Yeah. Right.
And it sounds easy, but it's so challenging at the
Right.
end of the day
Right.
because we get in our own way.
Yeah. I like what you said about just surrounding yourself
Yeah,
around, the right people.
yeah,
Um, and obviously, I think everybody understands that the people around them will have the biggest influence on them,
yeah, for
right?
sure.
Um, I think one way to dictate whether or not you're with the same crowd is, I think, if you admire the people around you. Um, I think the closest people around me in regards to my friendships, they have qualities about themselves that I wish I can have.
Like what?
Whether it be humility. I know people that are very humble and are very successful people in many ways, but you can never really see that. You kind of have to discover that on your own. Um, I think that's something that I kind of, you know, I wouldn't say lack completely, but I could definitely improve on just because like I feel like my ego gets inflated very easily. So like when I do feel like things are going my way, like I I get too much and my head gets big, right? Like I think I feel self-righteous in a way. So not just that, but just I just think that there's a level of respect needed for the people around you, and that's how you dictate whether or not the people around you are good for you. Um, so yeah, I mean, everybody that I'm close with, they are people. They have parts of them that I wish, or like they're my biggest influence because I try to be more like them. Um, I think I've been around a lot. Like I've moved around my entire life. So I've met a lot of people, um, and I've also cut out people out of my life.
Mm.
So I do know what negative or bad influences and good influences are. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's just I think it should be a mutual relationship too. Like I don't want to be the only person receiving. Like I also want to have a good impression on the people around me too. I think it should be a mutual transaction in regards to a friendship.
Like, how do you cut people off? Like, in the sense of like, okay, you know, this person may like you, you may like this person,
Yeah.
but you feel like the relationship is kind of like wear and tear. Like,
Yeah.
how does that transition look like? Do you just stop hitting this person up?
Right.
Do you be transparent with them? Because I want the viewers and listeners to know, like, sometimes like all relationships aren't the best relationships,
Right.
despite the influence they may have on you.
Right. Um, I think, when I was younger, I used to do it very in a very unhealthy way. I used to just cut it off completely, like what cut off means, right? Cut off all connections and um
Dang.
yeah, I know it's harsh and
So it was no closure.
no closure.
So
Yeah,
they probably thought like you weren't even alive at
right.
some time.
Probably, yeah. I mean, I don't
It's
think
like that.
yeah, honestly, it's don't get me wrong, like
Yeah,
this is very wrong to do.
yeah.
Because now thinking about it, I'm realizing, oh man, that probably caused so much hurt to them, you know, with no clarification. But I think when I was younger, it was more so I was so selfish, and I was just so like, oh, if they're not right for me, then I don't have to include them in my life. Um, I think now, um, the best way to approach it is really just be honest with them.
Hmm.
Just be, hey, like, you know, I feel like our lifestyles just don't match. I feel like the person I want to be, we don't share the same inspirations, if that makes any sense. Um, and kind of just lay it all on the table. And the thing is, I think if they're mature in themselves, they'll really hear you out and understand. But if they don't understand and don't understand why you have to kind of go a different path, go down different paths, I think you did the most you could do. I think it's all about just being transparent.
What if they're willing to change right there on the spot? Like, what if they be like, I've been thinking about this too, and I'm trying to, change,
Mhm.
these unhealthy habits
Right,
to more positive habits that can be reflected on their lifestyle.
right. Yeah, I mean, if that's the case, then I think it's a totally different situation. You know what I mean?
Or are you already got your mind made up? Like, nah, it's over with.
Well, if it were to be that situation where I cut off somebody, I
Yeah.
think it would have gotten to the point where I realized that there's no changing this person.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's the only people I would cut off in my life where is people that I really feel like are um bringing me down, regardless of um like it time and time again, they're holding me back in a way. Um, or maybe like it could be the other way around. I feel like I don't have a good influence on them, or
I understand
yeah,
that you feel as though that when you feel like a person, it just is no changing them, and it's just somebody that you prefer not to ever see again or have any type of interactions with them. Uh, it can be for the best of you guys,
right,
for best, for both parties.
right,
Um, I want to touch on this too. I want to understand like the experience you had. What is the biggest risk you took so far? Like at the age of 23, what is the biggest risk?
yeah,
And it can be like you failed or it can be you succeeded.
yeah. I would definitely say dropping out of college, man.
Mm.
I mean, it was a big decision for me, and up until then, I felt like I was following the path that I was supposed to. Like that was the orthodox way to go about life. You finish school, you finish high school, and you further your education through college, and after that, you get a job accordingly to what you study. Um, but yeah, it's brought in me to places where I didn't expect to be. Um, but I really just understood my heart wasn't there anymore. Um,
What did that look like? Because it is so many young people
yeah,
that feel like college is a scam.
yeah,
I'm pretty confident. Like I was in school and
right,
I felt like I'm not supposed to be here. I don't belong here. Like this is not me. It's a huge transition.
yeah.
You learn so much about yourself. So I wanted to know, like I want to know like how long were you thinking about this before you made the final decision? Like what are some of the um what was the mindset going into this decision?
Yeah. So I wanted to leave college right when I got in. I'm not gonna lie.
Real
Yeah,
shit.
yeah, yeah. I went in not knowing what I wanted to study. And then started to study business. Just because I felt like that was one of the broadest majors that I could study, right?
Yeah.
Like it can go into a lot of different careers. Um, so I think you know, I started to realize this wasn't for me when I was really just there to get by. Um,
What did that look like? Like just not going to class, like just doing
yeah,
the work.
yeah, just doing the work, just to get a grade, right? It's I think back then I didn't really understand the term education fully. I
Mm,
wasn't there to learn. I wasn't taking anything away. I would study for an exam. I'd cram for an exam, maybe a couple weeks before, um, and then 2 weeks after, taking the exam, I wouldn't remember anything.
mm-hmm.
Um, so I really was only in college to get a diploma, and to get a diploma to prove to people that I am um, dependable.
You wanted to be validated.
Right, exactly. Um,
But did others make you feel like that, or you feel like you created the mindset like I want people to know I can be reliable, independent as well.
so Um, I had a lot of influence from my dad. He never finished school. So the reason why I stayed in school with that mindset is because he would tell me, people would judge him differently or people would look at him differently, because he never finished school. Um,
I heard that a lot.
yeah, it's I don't know. I mean, Korean people, they're very I don't want to say surface level people, but they care a lot about those things.
Yeah,
You know, um, they really, credentials mean everything to them, right? Um,
qualifications.
Qualifications, right? Um, so he would just tell me about, every time I would bring it up to him that I felt like this wasn't for me, he would just explain to me, you know, um, that he's been through a lot of stuff that people put on him that he doesn't want to see me go through. Um, so I understood that, and I continued education or college, with that mindset. After a while, I think I just realized that, I didn't really care too much about what people thought about me in regards to, whether or not I have a diploma or not. And so when I decided to leave school, I told my dad, like, hey, I think, I could be more efficient with my time if I were to work full time as a salesperson, which I did for a couple of years, um, and just jump into the workforce. Um, and anything that comes my way, I'll take it, like I'm going into this situation fully understanding what I'm getting myself into.
Mm.
Um,
Did you looking back on it?
uh, yeah, I think I did.
Yeah.
I mean, my life has made a lot of turns since then. Like I didn't even expect myself to be living in Philly, when I made that decision.
Right.
Um, so like my view on like, where my career would be, um, it's definitely different than what I expected. Um, but I don't regret anything because, like I said, I feel like I even have a better understanding of education as a whole
Mm-hmm.
because of my past experiences. Um, so I'm actually going back to school. Um, it's funny because I say that I don't regret my decision, but I'm going back to school.
Yeah.
Um,
Sometimes you just need the clarity on why you want to do this.
exactly. Right.
Like we're so encouraged to just go to secondary education
Right.
right
Exactly.
after high school and not have a reason
Right.
why. And people just pick these majors that they can really just learn on their own. Like I went to school for marketing.
Right.
Not knowing that you don't need a marketing degree to be a marketer.
Right. Right.
Like you just really have to be self-educated and experienced.
Right.
And it's a lot of personality.
Yeah.
Um, but I felt like I was in school. People, I didn't. When you're in school, people like you're in school, like you just don't know how well you're doing. Because I'm broke. I'm still broke. I'm in school, but I'm not really learning anything. Like I'm just studying for the exams, but I'm not really taking heed on what the professors are saying. Like half of these professors don't even speak English, so it's kind of hard for me to follow. And I'm learning more outside of the classroom by just looking at the PowerPoints or the textbook. Um, so it's easy to feel like you don't belong there, and it's easy to feel like, okay, well, I can do much more, much better in the workforce because I can finally start making my own money, start to have the experience, and then you get this degree, and you may not even get the job right away.
Right. Right.
So it's so much influence that comes with that decision. But I definitely want to congratulate you on actually, going back. And even if you didn't go back, it's just something that, you have to reflect like, I know I still can achieve what I desire. But then it's about what do you desire?
Right.
You got to have a
Exactly.
plan.
Right. Exactly. Um, yeah, education at the end of the day, it opens a lot of
It
opportunities for
does.
you, right? I don't think you need college to be successful. I don't believe in that at all. But, um, if you know what you want to do, um, education just makes it that much easier for you to get to there, obviously. I tried entrepreneurship a few times in my time off, and, it's a big thing, right? It's very hard.
It's very challenging.
Yeah, very
You
challenging.
work more
Right,
hours. You
right,
gotta. It's innovative.
Right.
It's so many aspects of entrepreneurship.
Right. It's regardless of how much hard work you put in, um, I feel like if you don't, you know, if you're not going through the same to the right direction, but you're working very hard
Hmm.
towards that direction, you're not going to be successful.
Right.
So I yeah, it's given me a lot of experience though. And experience in like, like I was saying, like sales. Um,
Definitely.
if I were to just, you know, continue school, I don't think I would have um the knowledge or like the um the social callus built from doing door-to-door sales. And what I mean by that is I don't take anything personally anymore, especially when it comes to work. Whether it be criticism or whether it be you know, my performance. I mean, obviously my performance, it's a big thing.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah.
can always make it better, but um I think door-to-door sales has really um helped me believe in myself more, if that makes any sense.
What's the biggest success story, like, or the biggest loss you took doing door to doors? Like, what's a story where you can paint a picture like, yeah, I would never say that. Like, this script was terrible, or like, I would never approach this person, or like, dang, like, I can't believe I achieved that.
Right. That's a great question. Uh, I would say my worst experiences would always be putting all of my enthusiasm to it, all my efforts into it, and receiving so little back. That's like soul crushing, like going to somebody and almost having a perfect pitch, right? And having not even like a bad response, but no response at all. There'd be
Mm,
times where, but at the same time, I'm walking to somebody else's property, right?
yeah,
It's not like they're coming to me.
yeah, it's
So I'm intruding on them, right? Um, but it's just like, wishing that, knowing that you pretty much did everything you can, but feeling like a humiliation after that. Um, so I think that's happened on multiple occasions. You go like, because I used to do door-to-door sales in regards to businesses. Like what I would do is I would sell chemicals to nail salons. So what I would do is I'd pack like those sprinter vans,
mm-hmm.
pack it full of merchandise and go door to door nail salons and pretty
And you
much.
were like solely on commission.
No, so this was my family's business.
Yeah, yeah.
So I got a salary,
Okay,
but it
okay.
was more focused on just reinvesting or just investing in the company. I think
Right,
my
right,
my work is investing into building this company further.
right.
Um, but yeah, it's just there's been times where I got cussed at, for even entering their building. There's times where people straight up lock their doors in front of me, so you
Mm,
know, I think it builds something within you. This resilience. It's like I said, you don't take things personally. Once that happens over and over again. But I think the worst part of sales, I think would probably my biggest fails would be that, just because when I was first starting out, that would affect the rest of my day. You know what I mean? Um, the highlights of that job, um, I would say. Um, like the feeling that I would get um upselling. Like
mm-hmm.
that's what made me feel like a good salesman,
You feel
right?
like because it's the control.
Right, exactly. You control the conversation,
Yeah.
right? Um so just going into somebody's establishment and then offering something and they end up buying all of your merchandise. Like that's a great feeling. Um I wasn't getting paid off commission, so it didn't matter whether or not they bought one box or two. I mean, obviously it did matter,
Yeah.
but in a different way. Um, but it was just knowing that I was able to have full control over the conversation. And I felt that's when I was like improving in my job.
Yeah.
you know?
It's like for me, and when I was in sales, it's like literally like I'm walking in and I know what result I want to get.
Right.
And no matter how it goes, as long as I get the result, it's so satisfying because you had so much effort and so much character that you put into that, that you got it and you achieved it.
Right.
For me, I always said like I'd rather make $50,000 a year with just doing this podcast
Yeah.
than 200,000 working for someone else.
Mm.
And there's nothing wrong with working for someone else, but it's like if you hate your job and you're just doing it because you need the money,
Mm.
it's so much more satisfying when you do it on your own.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because it's your work, it's yours,
Right.
and it's like you built it up.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's so much more like satisfying, so much more like fulfilling.
Right.
But I always tell people like having a 9 to 5 is definitely worth it.
Right.
Especially entrepreneurship is very hard. And I have a podcast, and I do consider this a business, but at the same time, like I'm not making much money off of it.
Mhm.
Until I do, I love my 9 to 5.
Mhm.
And even if I start making great money, if I can make it the decision if I want to continue to, but it's all about balance because entrepreneurship is very challenging, and people don't understand. Like some people, it's like it's a lot harder.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you're dealing with so much, and you have to put in more hours.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, some people could just build that structure, you know. Some people could just build that structure where um, like you said, you build something from the ground up. And other people they need that structure for them,
Yeah.
like a 9 to 5. Um, it's funny because like they offer courses or like they offer education on or like you can major in entrepreneurship or
Mm-hmm.
minor in entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's something in my experience, um, it just comes from experience.
It does, bro.
Yeah, yeah, like um, you can learn about all these numbers, these statistics. But at the end of the day, I feel like um, it comes from character. Really, it comes from whether or not you're really just cut out for it. You know. Um, so yeah, I I'm experiencing like you. I have experienced both sides, right? Where I got to make my own hours, or I'm on a regular 9 to 5.
Right, right. Which one is more satisfying to you? Which one gets you like more fulfilled?
More fulfilled. I'm not gonna lie. I think it's the 9 to 5 these
Yeah.
days. Yeah. Like I completely understand where you're coming from. Where you're saying like this, practically like this business, your baby, is what's um, you're seeing the fruits of your labor.
Yeah.
You know. Whereas like 9 to 5, it's this thing's already built for you, and you have this level of security,
Yeah.
already put in place for you. Um, for me personally, I I think I have goals outside of building an entity, as of right now. Um, and for me to establish those goals, I really don't need to strive for that much, if
Mm-hmm.
that makes any sense. I think eventually I would want to go back into entrepreneurship, but as of right now, I'm just trying to build a level of security,
Yeah.
that will help me get into places that I want to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that because man, seeing that check every other Friday or every Friday or whenever it does have a lot of security.
Right.
Um, and especially if you love your job, bro.
Right.
Like it's people that I know working for Nike, Apple, Google, like they're super innovative companies.
Right.
And that's that. It's like more so. It's not the company. It's the industry. If you love the industry you're working in,
Hmm.
I really feel like that would have some type of fulfillment.
Hmm.
Because like I said, entrepreneurship is it's a whole different thing. You
Right.
know what I mean? Requires a lot more time.
Right.
But I want to ask you this before we end the podcast, and this is something that I feel like you can really, really look back and really define your character on. What do you define as a home?
That's a great question. That's a great question because for a while I always thought that I didn't have a home because I was always moving around my entire life.
Mm.
I spent a couple of years in St. Louis, spent a couple of years in Atlanta. I grew up in Jersey. Now I'm in Philly. Um, been in Indianapolis. So I've been all over the
Damn.
place, right? Um, so like in a tangible aspect, um, it's hard for me to pick one place as like my roots, you know? Um, so honestly, I think I just put it into people. I see my mom, my dad, my sister, um, the people at the end of the day that I know will always have my back and I can put 100% trust in without even thinking about it twice. Um, I guess that's my home, you know. I put a lot of importance on family. I do think blood is thicker than water. I do think friendships are very, very important. And very important in different ways because friendships, unlike family, it's chosen,
Yeah.
You decide to be friends with this person. Um, but I was just blessed with the family that I know has the good intentions, has always has good intentions for me. So, whatever they do, um, even if I disagree with it at the moment, I know where they're coming from or who they are as people. So I'll never second guess them. Um, in regards to location, I don't think I really have a home. Um, I mean, I guess the United States, but like within the United States,
Yeah.
I always tell people I'm from Jersey. But that's because I spent like majority of my years there.
Right.
Um,
It's south or north?
so like I moved probably like 10 times within Jersey itself,
Yeah.
but it's always like within Central.
Okay, central.
Yeah, middle of nowhere, man. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Cause yeah, I mean it's moving around so much, I think um it's taught me a few things. It's taught me how to just get along with people or just how to I think it's helped my communication skills for sure. And it's very easy for me to talk to a stranger. Um and that's just because I'm always talking to strangers. I've grown up talking to strangers because I was always moving away from people that I was familiar with. Um, so yeah. I mean,
How did that like shape you? Like, did you feel like I moved around a lot too?
yeah,
And when I moved around a lot, I became numb to people.
yeah, yeah,
Like I was like, at the end of the day, I'm not gonna know you forever, so I'm not even gonna like go out my way to go, go above and beyond for this relationship.
right,
Cause like, why should I?
right,
But then I started to become rude. It
right,
I was very like in high school. Like I didn't care.
right.
And then all of a sudden, it's like I get to school, like college, and I guess I started to understand relationships
Hmm.
a lot more with clarity on the power I have to choose my own friends, but choose them for the right reasons. And you're gonna meet so many people in life, but that doesn't define why you should treat people the way you do. Just be kind.
Right. Um, yeah, I mean, so I think I've gone through a similar situation where at one point I became more antisocial, right? I think it sounds like yours was more so about your choice too, right?
Yeah,
You separated intentionally from people. Um, I think there was a time in my life where I was moving around so much that I kind of lost the ability to kind of communicate with people. Um, there's a time where I was very, very antisocial, but that's just because I just, I don't know, something within me broke, and like I just couldn't talk to people. I would go through days without speaking a single word to anybody. Um,
what did that look like though?
so it was very frustrating because it's like I acknowledged it. I knew this was a problem that I wish I wanted to. to change,
You tell
right?
your parents, or you just like no?
My parents knew. I mean,
Yeah,
I didn't really have to explain to them, but they knew that, like, I had nobody around me. Um, they at the time they felt a lot of guilt just because you know, they were the ones deciding whether or not we move. Back then, as like a angsty teen, like I didn't really understand why things were happening the way they were, but um, yeah, I mean, it was just like it was like to the point where I couldn't even say hi back to somebody just because I had so much anxiety within me
mm,
that every step I take, anything I do, I feel like I was being judged on. Um, so after that, like I went to college, like similar to you, like it changed once I went to college. It was funny because like it frustrated me so much to the point where once I got into college, I realized that this was the time where I could really reinvent myself. And I think a lot of people think about
yeah, yeah. I try to
what,
reinvent my bro. I started dyeing my hair,
right,
trying
right,
different stuff. I was like, I'm not home.
right, right,
I was like, F it.
right. Yeah, so it's like a lot of experimentation, right? And I think my first years outside of my parents' home, it's like I really put an emphasis on being super social. But the thing was, it was almost like I was putting on a mask. Like
Mm,
I went from being super anxious, super shy to being super outgoing. Um, and my mentality was like, you know, I'm gonna just say whatever I want to say. I'm gonna behave however I want to, and I don't care however or how people take it, if people don't like me, then F them, right? Like, um, this is so corny, but there's a Gucci Mane lyric that I used to repeat to myself.
really?
Like, it's like you either with me or against me or you're in my way, right?
Oh yeah,
That's so corny, but I used to repeat that to myself, and I used to think that like, you know, I know what's best for me, and nobody else can have an influence on that.
right.
But it was like I said, it was like a mask. Like that wasn't true confidence. It was almost I was trying to um do too much to prove to myself that I was a certain way.
Yeah, hype yourself up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. I feel like we all do that.
Right.
Back then, I know I did.
So there was a lot of arrogance, a lot of ignorance, and just a lot of me being fake. Um, I think I leveled out since then. Um, I definitely feel like I've grown a lot in regards to how I communicate with people. And it's what I enjoy, honestly, um, the most. I would say my time here in Philly, the biggest, um, my biggest accomplishments are just the connections I've made. Um, and a big outlet for that has been the gym where we met.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
for sure.
it's typically the same crowd that I see, especially because I work the same hours. Um, but yeah, I think I just really invested myself into other people's lives and really just shown a lot of interest in other people's life, and I've received the same thing in return. And it's brought me the biggest joy I've had this past few years. Um, and I think, I've looked further into it, whether it be through reading, or just any source of self-help to further that, right? Because it is a skill. One of my favorite outlets the was a book. What's it called? How to How to Win Friends and Influence
Oh
People
yeah,
with
yeah. I read that book.
Dale Carnegie. Yeah, that's one of my favorite books that I've ever read.
Yeah,
It's super practical.
yeah,
There's certain books like we were talking about the philosophy of money,
yeah,
that are more so of like conceptual.
yeah,
But I feel like that book is like I was literally putting it into practice like right
yeah,
when I closed the book.
yeah, yeah.
And it's helped me grow in a lot. And just the way I make friends or I connect with people. One of the biggest things is just like, you know, using someone else's name. People, the favorites, people's favorite thing to hear is their own name,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Right.
I
So
agree. And one of the lessons I learned is when you want to be transparent with somebody, don't use the term you.
you're right, right, right.
Say we,
Exactly.
because when you feels like you're attacking them.
Right. Exactly.
So you can learn so much from that book on how to trust me,
Right.
bro. The name and that lesson, there's so many others, but those are two things that really stick out to me.
Right.
It's so simple too.
Yeah. So I think that book itself has had the most influence on me within the past few years, I would say.
Hmm.
Besides the Bible, of course.
Yeah, 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 for sure,
Yeah.
for sure.
But yeah. But yeah, I mean, um, I'm very confident in where I've come in regards to socially.
Hmm.
Um, I'm very proud of where I've come until up until now. And we were talking about it before. I was saying that like I always feel like I'm not satisfied. And that is true. Like it could get to a point where it could easily get to a point where it's unhealthy for you, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, for sure.
Um, like healthy contentment, is that what you said before?
Healthy unsatisfaction.
Unsatisfaction, right? Um, yeah, I think it's very important it's a balance,
It's
right?
very bound. Yeah.
It's a fine line, I feel like. Um, but I think it's important to be proud but not satisfied. Do you know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
reflect on your past and acknowledging your accomplishments, but also looking ahead of you, you know? So we'll see. I mean, there's always room for me to grow, whether it be socially or um, there's always room for me to mature. Um, and I think one thing, that another thing that I've been just trying to implement into my life is just acknowledge the fact that I will continue to grow. I think people get into the habit of looking back in the past and be like, oh my gosh, like 1 year ago, I was a completely different person, but fail to acknowledge that they're next year, they're going to feel the same way. The year after that, they're going to feel the same way. Um, this is not the end,
Hmm.
I'm not the end product.
Yeah.
Um, and so trying to just understand there's always going to be room to grow, I think has helped me a lot. But yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
And you know what, bro? This is the toast up segment. Toast to you, Alex, bro.
appreciate it.
Because number one, bro, a quote that I internalized is sometimes you got to give yourself time to grow.
Mhm,
Like a plant isn't going to be a plant overnight. It's going to sometimes be a being.
mhm,
And trust in the process and really investing into yourself so that way you can give back yourself to God
mhm,
and to the other people around you.
mhm,
Taking risk and staying true to who you are and being really, really um, adamant and really tenacious about everything you do. Because over time, you're going to look back and be like, wow, like I am the person I always desired. And it's always going to be a continued process with our own individuality, man. So I definitely want to toast you for your transparency, bro, and everything you brought to the table, bro. I feel like you came on the pod, toast to achievements, and really, really enlighten the viewers that it's all right to fail and it's all right to succeed as long as you continue to put yourself first and continue to look for other ways that you can give back to your community and have faith.
right.
Because that's what it's all about, bro. I feel like even when you came on the pod, you was like, man, I just don't feel like I succeeded enough to be on this
Right.
pod. And I'm like, bro, it's not even about that. You here today.
Mhm.
That's an achievement right there, bro. You woke up this morning.
Thanks.
Like, that's real rap, bro. You know what I mean? Like, you have friends and family that really support you.
Mhm. For sure.
You know what I mean? And that can never be overlooked. You know what I mean? Even though all the money, oh man, all the money and all the time, bro, you are genuinely here today. And that's something that's priceless.
For sure.
You feel what I'm saying? So we toast to that, bro, to a priceless day and a day that we will continue to strive to who we would desire to be.
For sure.
Toast to your achievement, brother.
Toast, brother. Appreciate it.
Yeah, bro, for real, man.
This green tea's good. Not gonna lie. I've
Yeah,
never had
bro.
green tea from Dunkin'. Yeah.